Good morning, fellow journalers. I am Tommy, and you are on the Love Boat. What's happening? Hey, Kristen, Melinda, Cindy G, good to see you. There's Mom. Oh, geez, I'm sorry. Good to see you, Mom. Glad you're here. Hello, Caroline. Great to see names I remember when we are we are a proper we group. Yes, we are. I love that we're all over the big globe in this proper we group. So. If you've not been here before, and it looks like most of you have, this is where we get together in the morning and we talk about journaling and the importance of it and how it kind of works. Hey, Jane Aldrich, good to see you. This is the part where we get together and work on one of the most important tools known to mankind when it comes to self-exploration. It's a course of sorts. Now, the price of this course is that you get a pen and some paper, whatever you got to do to get that. Buying a journal is a great idea. Getting something that you feel good, snapping the cover up every day. Hey, B lady, I'm glad you're here. Sandy Wandy, what's happening? Hey, Barbara Waite. Buenos dias. I'm glad you're here. So, see that? It's the magic curtains. Knock it off, Katy Perry. We have been going over an awful lot of stuff. This cat goes into zoomy mode in the morning. She almost knocked down my brother. I'm not even joking. You think I'm being funny, but I'm not. She almost took out my brother. A lot of times we spend time talking about staring at a blank page, right? Kind of nuts and bolts stuff, because it is the number one complaint of everyone who journals. You know what? I can't seem to get it going. Or when I start to journal, I feel stupid because I'm looking at a blank page. I don't know what to write. So, hey, Brandon Calloway, good to see you, man. I'm glad you're here. This is where we talk about the nuts and bolts stuff of what we do when we're staring at a blank page. We've talked about peeling the onion. We've talked about gratitude journaling, right? We've talked about all kinds of stuff that is designed to prompt you to start writing. Today, we're going to talk about something that is kind of like there's more than one prong to this. It's like a double-edged sword. We're going to be talking about something that you can absolutely use as a tool when you're staring at a blank page, but also just as importantly, if not way more importantly, this is perhaps the entire crux of this project, of what we do. If somebody said to me, what's the purpose of journaling? Right? Why do we do this in the first place? Well, it's busy work. We got to come up with stuff to do during the day. No, for real, the purpose of journaling is self-exploration. The purpose of journaling is to create the best version. Hey, the Johnny Scoville. The purpose is to figure out exactly who you are, where you're going, right? It's self-exploration. And modern society is designed to get you off of that path as fast as possible. There are so many distractions that are part of our everyday. It's somewhat overwhelming. If we had been born in any other time, right, all of the distractions that we have would be so different. What is possible with this is absolutely amazing, right? Caroline is coming in and joining us from the other side of the world and talking about problems that are universal, right? We have people that are going to be here from Australia. We have people that are going to be here from Scotland, from Great Britain, from Canada, from the United States, from Ecuador, right? All over the world. That's a beautiful thing. That technology allows us to do wonderful things. Hey, Brock Bandy, things that would not have been a possibility. Can you imagine trying to journal with somebody, say, 50 years ago, 60 years ago? Any of the communication we're doing either would have cost you a couple of dollars a minute, right? If you would even be able to do it, or you'd have to write a letter, you'd have to put it in a envelope, you would have had to mail it off. We have, as a society, stopped writing. Think about it. Any other culture that came before us, the ability to put one's thoughts anywhere, the ability to communicate, you would have had to have a pen and a piece of paper. We live in one of the first societies ever where you could graduate high school and literally survive the rest of your life without ever putting a pencil in your hand, right? Never picking up a pen. You can go through your whole life without writing. And I'll tell you something, people say all the time, is it important that you actually write with pencil and paper? It's very important that I write with pencil and paper. The idea is that you have to get thoughts out of your head and onto some other medium. You got to get it out of your head. The ability to go back and listen to or watch or read your thoughts are a huge part of this procedure. But aside from that, when you pick up a pen, right? I'll use me as an example because one of the reasons that journaling is so important for me is my brain is a two-track. Now they used to record on 8-track, and you'd have literally a track for the drums and the backup singing, and then you had a track where you were going to play bass, and all of that sort of comes together. I have a 2-track mind, and most people do, right? But for me, my brain is either on logic mode or my brain is on emotion mode. Now, I have spent the majority of my life living on emotion. And unfortunately for me, and this isn't everybody, it's not unique to me, but it certainly is my defining characteristic. If I allow the emotional part of my brain to run wild, then it will take control of the steering wheel of this ship. It'll hip check the captain logic to the ground, and I will make decisions based off of something other than logic. I will not engage the higher functioning of my brain before I start making decisions. No bueno. We watch a little of World War II documentaries, and some of the most eloquent letters I've ever heard were written by soldiers. Amazing, right? Amazing. And it's a really a great point. If we go back through any history, you can go back to wars that happened 150 years ago, 200 years ago, and read the letters that these soldiers wrote to their sweethearts. And then not only are they some of the most eloquent letters, and their vocabularies are just so incredible. Sorry, folks, I have to throw a cat toy. Not only are these letters eloquent and their vocabulary is just so developed, but on top of that, we're talking about people that were, in a lot of cases, 16, 17, and 18 years old. We have become a very lazy society worldwide. Sadly, that's just a stone cold fact. And the better technology gets, hell, I don't have to think anymore if I don't want to. I could get up in the morning and I could say, hey, ChatGTP, can you make me a show on journaling? Write out the bullet points. It'll take about 4 seconds, and artificial intelligence will give me 4 bullet points to come on here and talk to you about. If I go, hey, you know what? I don't even really want to go and do a whole lot of thinking on that. Can you just take those bullet points and expound on them? Let's say 7 minutes on each one. The computer will do it. It'll take me 6 seconds, and it'll start popping up on the screen. I can read it and go, yeah, not quite long enough. Do that again. Make 1 more bullet point and extend it to 10 minutes. This is beautiful technology. It really is. And it has the ability to make the world a better place. Oops, you hit Johnny. I wish I had, but no, not this time. It has the ability to make the world a much better place, especially if AI is used to do things that are slowing you down. Unfortunately, that's not what it's getting used for by so many people. YouTube has just changed a lot of its policies to try to shut down some of the channels that are using artificial intelligence to build complete channels. There's no human interactivity at all. The person that's talking to you is a voice that's absolutely perfect. And it's hard to tell if you're listening to a person or if you're not. I can't tell you how deep into a deal. I was doing some research on the Diddy case. And until a name comes up that AI can't cope with, you would think that you're listening to a person. In fact, there's even the coughing, right? There are like clearing throats. How do you know if you're getting BS'd or if you're not? Well, I'll tell you what. The answer to that question is you don't. And you're not gonna, I promise. Sadly, all of this technology is also making us do a lot less of what makes us human. Instead, what it's doing is it's causing us to compare ourselves to other people. I did a show recently on the alpha male phenomenon on YouTube. Now, I'm going to be doing other shows on it as well, but these guys that are all jacked up, they get out of prison, they do a bunch of steroids, and they start screaming into the camera about how you're weak if you're not up at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing 100 push-ups. And if you're going to be a man, blah, blah, blah. There's usually a course attached to this that they're going to sell. In some cases, there's a guy selling a $30,000 course on how to be a man. If we had fathers in the lives of all of the men on this planet, there wouldn't be anybody buying a $30,000 course to find out how to be a man. I promise you. My dad spent a hell of a lot of time talking to me and my brother on what it meant to be a man. And oddly enough, they didn't mention any of the garbage that these guys are selling. My dad wasn't hammering home the fact that you had to be up at 4 o'clock in the morning doing push-ups. My dad said things like, do good and fear not. If you're doing the right stuff, you're not going to worry about all of the things that the rest of the world worries about. Now, technology, the world, the speed at which the world moves at is causing us all to live in a world we're not designed to live in. No one was ever designed to live in a world where you didn't need to research something if you wanted to learn about it. Remember when you were a kid and you'd say really crazy things to your parents like, Mom, why is the sky blue? And your mom would say, well, that's how God made it, right? Answers like that used to happen all of the time. Men used to be men, says Caroline. Yeah, exactly. Now you can say, if a kid asks you, Dad, why is the sky blue? You can ask AI and it will give you an answer and literally tell you why the sky is blue. The atmosphere and the oxygen, right, and the water that is captured is pressed toward the planet because of all of the non-atmosphere pressing in. It gives you the appearance of being blah, blah, blah. We lived in a much better world when Mom and Dad were telling you that God wanted it blue. In my humble opinion, it was a whole lot better. The bee lady says encyclopedias used to be used in schools. Yeah, I remember. I remember looking and being fascinated why some letters were this wide, right, and some were this big. And as a kid, it didn't make sense to me that, well, we don't use that letter to start words very often. These were things that you kind of explored. There's no exploration in the same way that there used to be. How does this all relate back to the journal? Well, they decide through all of this artificial intelligence, and they decide through all of the stuff that they're bombarding you with, the real world is just a memory. Amen. Well, I'll tell you what, it's alive and well right here on the Love Boat. And I promise you we're going to keep it that way, the Dewey Decimal System. If you asked a kid what the Dewey Decimal System is, they'd go, Dewey what? Hold on a second. I'll tell you in a minute. Hey, what is the Dewey Decimal System? That's how questions are answered these days. And when you don't take the time to go and actually do the effort to research something, you don't care about filing it away. It's not important anymore. Why? Because the next day, if somebody asks you what's the Dewey Decimal System, you're going to pick this thing up and you're going to ask it again. There's no reason for memorization. Crash Zoe, good to see you. Our intelligence quotient, our IQs have been consistently growing over centuries. Honestly, our brains change and we continually get smarter in theory. Problem is IQ doesn't make you smart. It doesn't. Think of IQ as a bathtub. How big is your bathtub versus this person's bathtub versus my bathtub? How much can you fill that up with? Now, I could fill it up with statistics from the New York Mets and tell you what everybody that ever played on that team, what their batting average was, where they went to school, when they got recruited, what year they signed. If the next guy takes his bathtub, which doesn't fill up quite as much, and fills it with American history, or the next person whose bathtub doesn't even fill up quite as much as that, but fills it with the knowledge of medicine and becomes a doctor. You're going to tell me that the guy with the Mets is more intelligent than the doctor? That would make a lot of sense, right? Because IQ is how much crap can you shove into the bag that we call the brain. And we have been growing that and growing that and growing that. Well, I got news for you. It's now atrophying because we're not using it. We don't need to. We don't need to memorize. We don't need to learn. Those days are over. Kids aren't being taught cursive. Can you imagine if the world shut down? If by some reason we woke up tomorrow and they said, hey, for the next 6 months, there's not going to be any internet. We're not going to be able to communicate that way. You had to see it on a news program, right? Like you turned on regular TV. Claudia, thank you for bringing me back to journaling. After I saw your show, I went back and read some of my old journals. I've got to admit, it was tough. The pain was raw. And you know what? Pain is a good thing. I'm sorry, it is. And it's a funny thing for a guy that spent millions of dollars on painkillers. But pain is a beautiful thing. It clarifies, it sharpens, it turns you into the person that you're going to become. The people that we talk about throughout history, the names that will stick in your mind forever, overcame massive amounts of pain. There are people that had to work through things that were just over the top. And you know something? We stopped learning about those people. I read a book when I was in prison on Mother Teresa, who became a saint. You're aware? Winchester Super X, I'm glad you're here. Yes, we are doing good over here. I appreciate you asking, and we're doing fantastic. This was a woman, Mother Teresa was a woman that has been sainted, right? She worked with the homeless, and she worked with people that were starving, and she worked with lepers. And I got to read her journals, her inner thoughts. Lisa Trimble, good to see you. I'm glad you're here this morning. God bless you. I got to read the woman's diaries, her journals, right? The things that she was saying to herself, not to the world. And do you know what she said? She's a saint, by the way. She said that there wasn't a day that went by in her life that she didn't doubt whether or not there was a God. Does that make her a lousy believer? No, it makes her an honest human being. And the fact that she's human made her a completely different figure in my head. Because everybody, no matter how great your faith in God is, They don't show up in the room, right? God doesn't show up and go, I'm here, you got nothing to worry about. Everybody has those moments where there's a crisis of faith. But to hear someone that was sainted, yeah, she was not a nice woman, I promise. And when you read the journals, that will come through fairly thick. She had some real human flaws, a buttload of them. But it's fascinating to me how the difference between reality, right, and what we know as reality. For instance, and I talk about it a lot on here, and I continually will talk about it a lot. Great book called Don't Know Much About History will tell you that we, the United States of America, knew that Japan was going to bomb Pearl Harbor in plenty of time to get all of our boys off of those ships. None of them needed to die. How about that? And the more I think about it, because I spent so much time wrestling with this, well, we needed to get into World War II, right? They made a decision. We have to be into this war, and the people don't want us in this war. Well, what will make them want us in this war? Their boys dying, a lot of them in their sleep before they could even get their clothes on. Couldn't you have just left the boats there and taken all the guys off of it? Well, you wouldn't have gotten the same righteous indignation. You wouldn't have had all of these, yeah, somebody was here yesterday. Costumes versus real. What we put out for the world versus who we really are. The difference between our ego, right, and what is real. But they allowed Pearl Harbor to get bombed. And the first time I read that, I thought, those sick sons of bitches knew that this was coming, and they allowed those boys to die. The more that I journaled about that, the more that I thought about that, war is nonsense. Absolutely it is. The more that I journaled, the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about it. Because honestly, it as a United States citizen, it jacked my brain up more than anything I ever found out about my own country, ever. And then I started to think about what it must have been like for the president to make that decision. Now, I'm not giving him a pass. I promise you I'm not. But he wholeheartedly believed, and he was right, hindsight being 2020. If we didn't get into World War II, we'd all be speaking German. There wouldn't be any Jews left on the planet. I would imagine the blacks would be gone, people who were gay, because they had an agenda, right? They were going to turn us all into really attractive blonde kids with blue eyes who were all 6 feet tall and spoke German. It doesn't justify what happened. But can you imagine when Pearl Harbor was over and the president got to see pictures of a hand sticking through a hole in the bottom of the boat where they were trying to cut into it to save the people who drowned inside? 2 soldiers holding hands through the hull of that boat. I can't understand how the president didn't take himself out after making that decision. But this is the reality, right? The crazy thing is, all of those people, without fail, wrote down their thoughts. We don't do it anymore. So the purpose of this journaling self-exploration is to find out who you are. It's to find out what your goals are. And if your goals are stupid, right? We talked about this. Write down what you want, why you want it. To say, oh, you know what? I saw this house. It's in a beautiful part of town. It's so much nicer. If you could see this house, I want to live in that. Well, if somebody says, I want to move into a nicer home, you think to yourself, you don't need a reason for that. The house that you're in isn't as nice as that house. No, you start journaling about that. And if you're honest with your journal, are you moving in there because by moving to that neighborhood, your kids are going to go to a school that is so much better. Their education is going to be better. They're going to be safer. Those are the kind of reasons that make you go, yeah, I'm going to buy that house. If my girlfriend in high school, she just married this dude and he bought her a house and it's like 3,000 square feet and this one's 5, right? When that dirty you-know-what drives by my house, she's going to go, I should have married Tommy Scoville. If that's the reason that you set the goal, then you're an asshat. And you know what? If you don't put it to paper, you're never going to know you're an asshat. And for me, the paper part is essential for 2 reasons. One, as most of you know, I struggle really hard with my ability to write. I'm learning disabled. I have a learning disability. So for me to write does not sound like it does when I talk, especially if I had even a glimmer of a chance that someone was going to read it. I would just blow the assignment off. I'm not even going to do it. I'm not going to let somebody read it because they're going to think I'm stupid. And this really became a hang-up for me in life. So I shut down at about the age of 14 and decided that it was so much better if the world thought I was a burnout and a rebel instead of a stupid kid. So I just shut down and I stopped doing all of that altogether. And that smoking a little weed, right, so that they would think I was one of the crazy kids instead of one of the stupid kids. Well, that had a dual effect. I no longer felt stupid. Even when I was in the face of the things that always made me feel less than, that weed took that away. It wasn't very effective for a long period of time, but I knew there was a correlation between chemicals I put into my body and how I felt about myself. I wasn't fixing the problem. I was shoving it into that closet that we always talk about, right? I'm not going to deal with the closet. You shove shit in there with your foot, you pull the door shut. Well, I did that for 46 years, give or take. When I write, a fantastic thing happens. I can't write while fully engaging the emotional part of my brain. And hey, Renee B, it's so obvious. When I sit down and I'm so freaking angry and I start to write, I can't. I really struggle to write when I'm angry, because when my emotions are fully kicked in, I need, especially with my particular affliction, learning disability, if I'm going to write, I need the higher level of my brain, the executive function of my brain, the logical part of my brain has to be fully engaged in order to send that signal down through my body over to my right arm so that I can write that out. In the process of engaging that, the emotional part of my brain has to get in the back seat. Now, I would have told you 5 years ago that it literally was my emotions are running my brain or my logic is running the brain, and they two do not meet. Right? They're not even in the car at the same time. The more that I journal, my goal now is to bring those two things together in a healthy kind of a way, so that if I'm feeling incredibly in love, I can still be logical. Or if I'm feeling incredibly pissed off and the emotion that's running me at the time happens to be hate or anger or jealousy or any of the ugly emotions, that the logical part of my brain can still engage. I didn't think that was a possibility. I literally thought that when one track was engaged, the other one was not. I realized scientifically that doesn't make sense, but that's how it felt to me my entire life. Journaling is bringing me together as an entire unit. And one of the things that, hey, Lindy, one of the things that happens when you journal is you write down goals. You write down things from your past. We talk about peeling the onion. If you start at the beginning of this series, we go through all of these things. But wanting to be loved is part of the human condition, right? When they talk about the things that you need food, you need water, you need shelter, right? You need love, you need connection. And we talk a lot on the lifeboat, the love boat, sorry, Archie's mom, about how the opposite of addiction is connection. The opposite of everything going bad in your life is connection. This is designed to keep us from connecting. There are apps right now that are gaining in popularity like you would not believe. And you know what these apps are? Hey, the life of Dennis, what's happening, brother? The goal of these apps, you have an artificial intelligent woman, the image of a lady that will talk to you. Millions of people download these apps every day, and the AI learns who you are. It learns your emotions, and a computer will give you what you ought to be getting from another human being. Holy hell, we have lost our way. And I don't mean we're a little off course. Hey, Jenny D, I mean, we took the compass and we threw it off the boat. If there was one of these apps on the app store, I would be sick to my stomach as a society. But you wouldn't believe how many there are. Pooh Bear 007, how are you? You can look this up when I'm done speaking. Go look at how many AI friend apps there are. We're in deep trouble. We are in real trouble. One roadblock I'm hitting in my journaling is my handwriting. I have written so much by hand over the years. I hope I can read this stuff. Well, you know what? No one else can read my stuff. And it really becomes, hey, Sonny, grateful to be here and love how I came on as Tommy just started talking about Mother Teresa. Good timing, right? My penmanship is horrific. It's terrible. Most people cannot decipher what I am writing. The good news is most people don't have to. I'm the only person that has to be able to go back and read this stuff. And it almost looks like a kind of shorthand, and I guess in some ways it is almost. Certain words that I use all the time, like and the and is, the small little words that link sentences together. I'm sure there's a name for those, but my particular disability made studying that stuff difficult. But I kind of shorthand those things. They don't even look like words anymore. But it doesn't matter. The self-conscious that kept me from doing all this stuff doesn't give a crap anymore. It did in the beginning. I literally was so self-conscious about how my writing looked that I couldn't even do it if I knew no one was going to see it. I don't care anymore. I used to not use a word if I didn't know how to spell it, because to look at it afterwards, horrifically misspelled, made me feel stupid, made me feel less than. And that's what drove me to the drugs and the chemicals and all that anyway, the bad lifestyle. Articles, there you go. That sounds familiar. Would I be angry if somebody read my journal? Yeah, I mean, if somebody read it without my permission, yeah, I'd beat the ever-loving bark off of them. It's a form of rape, in my opinion. If I'm going to share my thoughts with somebody, or I'm going to share my thoughts with the world, it's a decision that I will make. If I'm going to share my innermost thoughts, then I have to be in love with that person. So I sure as hell am not going to be comfortable with anybody reading that. I probably will become violent. But I live in a place where that is never a fear of any kind. My journal is sitting 6 inches from me on that table, and it never leaves. Now, I also have a journal in my bedroom. I have one that I take with me everywhere I go. But my day-to-day journal sits right there. You know what's sitting right next to it? My brother's. And we buy them with different covers so we don't accidentally grab the wrong journal. On the bright side, his penmanship is beautiful. If I were to open up the first page, and it looks so much like my dad's, it's crazy. When I was in school, my brother could write me letters to get me out of class or to get out of school or whatever. He could write me a letter, and the school would think it was my dad. My brother's a lefty. My dad was a lefty. I'm right-handed. So my brother writes in this. When I look at it, I'm like, man, it's just weird how he holds his hand so he doesn't drag it across the ink he just wrote. That's so much trust. You know, Caroline, it is, but I don't spend a second thinking about it. My brother has said live before that he'd rather jump off the balcony than read my, my innermost thoughts. And if the people that you have in your life are solid individuals, I promise you, they wouldn't even dream of reading your inner thoughts. If you've got somebody that is absolutely ready to do that kind of stuff, get away from them, right? That's really a sick person. Now, if it is something that you're hung up on, then you talk to the people in your life and say, this is mine. This is the inside of my brain put on paper. I don't want you ever looking at it. I don't want anyone ever looking at it. This is for me. It's not for anybody else. And all you need, I promise, in life is going to end up in that journal. The answers to the questions that we can't get answered are going to end up in that journal. And if they don't, if you can't figure it out, then a therapist is going to make it work. But we have therapists on the boat. Krista Melinda is a therapist. If somebody journals and then goes to a therapist, how much easier is it for the therapist? Right? It's just like the night shift or the day shift. Now we've got a third shift. It is an outside source. And the outside source, if you already know your thoughts, if you're already working through your problems, when I sit down with a therapist, there's not a whole lot of downtime. I'm getting right to the issue of what I need to work on because I know what I need to work on. The journal's screaming it at me every day. If asked would I read others' journals, I have read other people's journals who specifically asked me to read one section of it. And what I will usually say is, I'll do it if you're there. You're not handing me your journal to take home. Like, that's never going to happen. Hello, Lee. No chance. But if a person believes that I need to hear part of their journal, I'll be more than happy to sit. I'm happier if they can read it to me. You know, there's something beautiful about hearing somebody's thoughts in their own voice. But it's something that makes me really uncomfortable. And if you had asked me that question 2 years ago, I'd have said, hell no. But I've come to realize the power in that. And not necessarily even the written word, but the fact that somebody thinks someone needs to hear this. Someone other than me needs to hear this. My mentor was fond of saying, you need to share this with somebody else, right? Like the real admissions about who and what I am. The fact that I lied to so many people, the fact that I did all of these things while I was using. He's like, you're going to have to tell this to one other person. And I said, I tell it to God. And he said, God already knew, you idiot, right? You don't need to tell God anything. Trust me when I tell you, God knows. No, you need to tell this to a human being, somebody frail, somebody that will understand. And I'm like, I don't know that anybody, deserves that kind of access to my inner thoughts. He said, it isn't about the person. It's about you. It's about the realization that you shared this with another human being. And I did. My mentor knows more about the inner workings of my brain than anybody on earth, and I still do it with him. These days I only do it through email, but I know the BOP is going to read the email I sent him. I don't care anymore. There was a time that I really did. The stuff that's written in my journal, I wouldn't be heartbroken because somebody read it. I would be heartbroken because that person wanted to invade that part of me. That person's a bad human being. And I don't let bad human beings, I hope, in my orbit. And if I have let somebody that close to where they can have access to my journal, then I really made a huge error. And I'll tell you what, with all of the ugly breakup and whatever of my last relationship, I had 6 journals in that house laying around at all times. Just never touched one of them. It's you really got to look at the people in your life if they're the kind of people that would pick up your journal and read it. That's a problem. Now, you can go get a lockbox that isn't going to cost you dick. I'm sorry. It's cheap as hell. You can go get a lockbox anywhere if that's an issue. You can also hide a journal. You know, I know that there are people who had their privacy so invaded at a young age. It's one of the problems with diaries. Parents read them. And it's like, it's a kind of mental rape. And for the rest of that person's life, when they go to write something on paper, they're going to go, ooh, I can't, if I write this and somebody reads it, if that's your thought, while you're journaling, if you're writing something thinking, I better church this up in case someone reads it, journaling isn't going to do anything for you. It's not. You have to be able to say things to the journal you can't say to yourself. If I could say the things that I write in the journal to myself, right, without that journal's, the external hard drive, I like to call it, because everything's up here, right? All of this stuff is trapped in this addled brain. When I get this stuff out, it's not just cathartic, it's essential. I thought I stopped writing because I was afraid. No, I was terrified someone would read it. But the other problem was me, admitting, confessing, out loud, admitting. I felt often lost, alone, and less than. Yeah. The crazy thing is that sometimes the journal will point that out, right? Yeah, you can ask me, Archie's mom. Send me an email, tommyscoville@gmail.com. Getting it out is so important, and it's going to be uncomfortable. I got news for you. If your journaling is comfortable, you're probably doing it wrong. Hey, Arla, good morning. I promise. If there are not big, stumbling blocks to your journaling, then you're doing it wrong. But here's where it gets incredible. Somebody wrote me a really beautiful comment the other day, and they said, I really hope that you find the love of your life. And I hope you find someone that's going to, sort of complete you. And I think a lot of people end up thinking this because my last relationship was as public a relationship as you possibly could have. And I'm not going to do that ever again. I promise you. I think had there not been a world around, we would have ended differently. I promise you. And I mean, we may not have ended, but certainly we would have ended a whole lot differently. But the point is this. There's you remember the song, I believe that children are our future. Cliche, not cliche, whatever. This is a fact that, once again, go back 2 years and talk to me about this and I would have rolled my eyes. But all you need is a love, right? For real. But if you don't love yourself, then you're going to screw over your partner at every single turn. If you don't love yourself, in order to make yourself feel right at specific times, you're going to lie. Because if you're honest all the time, it's going to scream, I hate myself. That kind of honesty, when you are completely honest with somebody and you're not in a good place mentally, you're going to know exactly that you're not in a good place mentally. So my journaling, I've been doing this now for over a decade. I've been writing every single day. And one of the things that is incredible to me is how much my journaling changes, how much what I'm trying to get out of journaling changes, how much that my understanding of the process changes. I was in this damn near a decade before I realized the importance of the journal in a huge way, is that I learned to love myself. The lies that I told after my conviction, after meeting Q, I never lied the big lies, right? That was when I was a junkie. The lies I said afterwards were lies or omissions just to make life a hell of a lot easier. And I justified it that way. That's going to be so much more difficult on the person I care about. If I tell them the truth on this, they're going to be hurting. I'm going to be hurting. I'll just knock the edge off of it. I'll make my life round, right? Perfectly sanded and round. If the answer to the question is going to have a barb on it, if there's a chance that that answer is going to nick the person I'm talking to or cut them or scrape them or scratch them, or if it's going to do that to me, I'll just knock the edge off of it. I'll just lie because it just makes it easier. And if I'm uncomfortable about something, well, then I'll just lie about it because then I can make it comfortable. If the truth is uncomfortable, well, then I'll just make the truth comfortable by tweaking the truth a little bit. It didn't occur to me until deep into my journaling journey that the reason that I lie is because I'm so uncomfortable with who I am as a human being. I just can't get motivated or think that it will make any difference. And oftentimes, way too tired is always my excuse. And I definitely don't love myself. Well, very few people do. And if you say, you know, do you hate yourself? I think probably 75%. I'm going just guessing based on the number of people that I've talked to while doing this. 75% of the people are not going to say that they hate themselves. 25% will say, I hate myself so fast it will blow your mind. And they usually are addicts, and they're addicts usually on one of two specific chemicals. Not that that's relevant, but in my experience, people who are addicted, especially if they use needles, hate themselves. The needle takes away the hate. Getting motivated is an issue. But the crazy thing is this. If I were here right now going, here's what we're going to do. Today, we're going to spend 1 hour, right, of doing yoga. Then we're going to do 45 minutes of a fast walk. We're going to try to be walking at 4 to 5 miles an hour. Okay, that takes some motivation. To sit down at a page, journaling doesn't take an hour a day unless there's something wrong in my life. If I'm really struggling through something, I might journal an hour a day. My morning journal takes me about 5 minutes. My night journal takes about 3. It didn't in the beginning because I was building what that looked like, right? The procedure of what the journaling looked like. In the beginning, I didn't understand that at all. So in the beginning, it might have taken me 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes at night. We got 24 hours in a day. We're going to spend about 8 of them asleep, right? So what are we looking at? 16 hours of being awake. I want 10 minutes in the morning and I want 10 minutes at night. It's not going to take a lot of time, right? It isn't. Now, motivation. If I don't love myself, that ought to be enough motivation to find out why I don't love myself. If that can't properly motivate you, then maybe go with this. You're not going to be, you know what? Bawling is a good thing, Archie's mom. Keep that up. I promise. You'll thank me later. Keep bawling. If tears are coming, don't fight them. It's another thing we do that is such a disservice. A child starts to cry, and the first thing we say to them is, don't cry. I say, let kids cry. You know, ugly crying, yeah, hug them, pick them up, soothe them. But saying, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry is a disservice, especially if you're doing it to a boy. Tears are a good thing, always. Tears as an adult are the best thing. And I have said this a lot recently, but since I left the United States of America, I have done more crying than anything else. I mean, honestly, I've done more crying since I left the United States than I have in my entire life. Tommy, do addicts hate themselves, or is it their dependence on the substance that they hate? It's not that cut and dry in my experience. There are people who don't hate themselves, but there's a chapter of their life that very often they had no control over. I've met rape victims who use drugs because it allows them to cope with what happened to them. I've met plenty of them. I've met people whose mothers took off or their fathers were abusive or whatever, and they use chemicals to put that chapter of their life to bed. Because we are nothing if we are not an organism that seeks out a lack of pain. We do whatever the hell we have to do to stop pain from happening. For real. You know, limping. You know why you limp? Because it hurts if you don't limp. All of the things that you see are designed to help us stop pain. You tweak your knee. If you walk in a normal way, it hurts, right? So we put a limp on, and that limp is going to keep you from putting enough weight on that leg to cause an issue. Well, you're spiritually limping, I promise. All of us are to some degree. Now, for me, I hated me, and that's why I did substances. Now, that's a great payoff because now I hate myself more because I do this substance. And I hate myself even more when I ran out of all of the money I made. And when I was a public speaker, I made a disgusting amount of money. I made way more money than I was worth. And it took a while to go through all of the money that I had saved up over a period of time. When I went from pills and prescriptions to heroin, I went through money like I was setting it on fire. And then when you run out of the money, you start selling the expensive things that you bought. But the guilt of being a junkie gets added to the hate of yourself, the self-hatred. Now I've got to steal to get the substance. Now I've got the guilt of being a thief, which goes against everything my father ever taught me in life. So the needle is now taking away the fact that I hate myself. It's taking away the guilt of the fact that I'm lying to everyone in my life by my lifestyle. It's taking away the guilt and the responsibility of stealing from other people, what that's doing. And you do this mental gymnastics. Well, I'm not stealing from a neighbor. By the way, I would steal from a neighbor in a heartbeat. But I was stealing from institutions. I was stealing from large businesses. When Katrina happened, there was an article on the television about, or a news report on the television about how they at Home Depot raised the price of plywood like 4 times the normal price. Why? Because everybody had to have it. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm going to have a hell of a lot of fun robbing Home Depot. For real. I went to prison for robbing Home Depot, by the way. And I took millions of dollars of stuff out of Home Depot. For real. I pled guilty at my arraignment, which isn't done. Simply not done. You go to your arraignment and it's almost pro forma. They enter a plea for you of not guilty because you have time to do a pre-sentence investigation. You have time to do all of these things that can mitigate how much time that the prison system is going to give you. I went there and at my arraignment, I said guilty. And the judge said, well, it doesn't work that way. I said, I'm aware of that. This is not my first time in the system, but I want to plead guilty today. And she said, why? I said, because I want to take responsibility for the things that I did. I don't want to play the game. I don't want to try to mitigate this. I have ripped these people off. I've done it systematically. I hit every single Home Depot store within 30 miles, and I did it every single damn day. I want to take responsibility for what I've done, and I want to plead guilty to it. Sounds great, doesn't it? It's also bullshit. I wanted to plead guilty because there was not a representative from Home Depot there. If I could get convicted that day, Home Depot couldn't come in and go, let me give you an idea how much this dude took, which means the judge did not order restitution. I knew I was going to go to prison, but my fear was if Home Depot shows up and they show all the videotape of all the different times I went into stores and what I'm walking out of there with, and they start doing an estimate of how much I've stolen, I'm going to owe millions of dollars in restitution. And I'm not saying that. I'm literally meaning millions of dollars. I used to go in and I would take one of those carts that you push around, and I would stack DeWalt toolkits. At the time, they were cordless toolkits. They were about $1,300 a piece when they first came out. And I would put 4 of them on one of these carts. I would go to the back exit of the store where you hit that door to swing it open, and it goes through a speaker on the door. I would take expandable foam when I first entered the store. They sell it right on the shelf, and I would go up and put it all over the speaker. And then I would walk around and do my shopping and wait to see if somebody came and grabbed me for that. And if they didn't, then I was going to load up that cart and I was going to walk out through that. And when the alarm went off, it went, and you couldn't hear it because the speaker was caked in this crap. But you start doing the math on how much I was taking out of there every single day. I had my fence was a man that buys stolen property, and then he resells it. It's how he makes his living, right? So he'll give you 50 cents on the dollar for certain things, or he'll give you 30 cents on the dollar. And that's how the exchange goes. I show up and I say, I got stuff from Home Depot. There's DeWalt kits. He says, I'm doing 30 cents on the dollar. Okay, so if I need to come up with $700, do the math. And this is 7 days a week, 30 or 31 days a month, and 365 days a year. It was horrifying. But all of that emotion and all of that guilt and all of that shame, right? The needle took all that away. So as soon as you start getting into the dope sick, you start to go into the withdrawal, malia, right? The Spanish call it. But when that process starts, I'm not just sick, right? I'm guilty. I'm disgusting. I'm all of the emotions that the needle turns off. Now, not only am I vomiting and defecating at the same time, right? Uncontrollably, but on top of that, incredible pain is an emotional pain and a spiritual pain, and the reality of this is where I started, and I'm so far out there I can't even see the person that I started out being. Heavy, wicked heavy stuff. And going to prison would get me sober. Wouldn't get me rehabilitated. It wouldn't get me clean. It wouldn't get me whole. It wouldn't bring me back together. The journal did more for me, and this took a while too. I would say my mentor got me sober. He used to say all the time, the journal did more for you than anything did. You're going to get yourself sober. You're going to get yourself whole. And if you're going to love the person that you're with, if you're going to love your children, if you're going to love your friends, if you're going to love the people that you work with, If you don't love yourself, you're never, ever going to love a person the same way. And I'll tell you what's worse. This is something that Q said, and the first time he said it, honestly, it was like getting punched in the stomach. He called me Rocco, right? And he said, Rocco, no one is ever going to love you more than you love yourself. You set that bar. You set the bar here. No one can love you more than that. So if you hate yourself, no matter how much the person you're with wants to care about you, it's not going to happen. I promise. No one's ever going to love you more than you love yourself. So you better really work on loving yourself. That's the purpose of journaling, is to get to a point where you're comfortable in your own skin. Sure, setting goals is huge, right? But the most important part of what we do in a journal is learning to love ourselves, because you spent 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 70 years learning to hate yourself. And then this bad boy kicks in, right? Johnny Scoville says all the time, comparison is the thief of joy. When you start to compare your life to other people, your joy goes like this and starts to shrink. What the hell is Facebook? Facebook is how you can look up your friends from high school to see if you make more money than them. Facebook is how you can look up your ex-girlfriend and see if the guy that she's dating has abs. And keep it real. If you look up your ex-girlfriend and the guy she's dating weighs 400 pounds, you're like, hey, right? That's so unhealthy. Do you know the last time I looked at Facebook? Me either. For real. Johnny Scoville deleted it, correct? Or did you just? Oh, that's right. We couldn't. Yeah, it's so hard to delete Facebook. We tried for hours when we were at the hotel when we first got here. He said, I'm deleting this. I said, good idea. We asked AI how to delete it. Like we went through, they make that more difficult, I'm telling you, than taking the SAT. But those apps are designed so that you can compare yourself to other people. And it gets worse, because if you put up a post saying, I'm doing better than you did, right, to all your friends from high school, other people have the ability to go, yes, you are, or nah, not so much. The term dopamine hit was not in existence before the good people at Facebook coined it. No joke. Dopamine hit was a phrase coined in Silicon Valley to talk about the thumbs up, right, on Instagram and on Facebook. Because you get a dopamine hit when people validate your post. Now, if you're doing creative stuff and the stuff is funny, it is nice to have somebody go, yeah, that's funny. I want every one of you to hit the subscribe button. I want every one of you to leave a comment. It validates what I do here. But I'm telling you what, I don't build my life on it. I promise you I don't. More than even the validation, what it does for me now, because I don't care. I swear to you I don't. The validation doesn't mean anything to me. Emails from people who say, this is changing my life, that's different. You know, somebody takes the time to write, or I've gotten 3 emails from 3 different people who said, I left my house and went out to do this. And I haven't left my house in this long. And I went, right? That's a dopamine hit. And it isn't, and it's not your average dopamine hit. For real. I remember having a very long conversation in the first year of the lifeboat with Johnny Scoville. And he's eating peppers and he's beating the hell out of himself. And you know, what he was doing was really difficult on the body. And he said, but it's a lot easier than what you're doing with the, the difficulty on the mind. It's got to be very, very hard to deal with people who are going through all of the stuff that a lot of the people that you're dealing with, right? It's got to be killing you. And I'll tell you something. We protect ourselves. We do things that because it makes us feel good. It's like the limp. We limp because it protects the injured part of your body, right? Well, I'm going to make you a promise. If those emails didn't deliver to me what they deliver, I'd have quit when things got bad, I promise. But I spent millions of dollars sticking needles in my arms. But that little rubber thing hitting the bottom of the syringe never felt like somebody saying, my life is changing. Or somebody saying, I haven't done dope in 4 years, and if it wasn't for the lifeboat, God help us. That's a high. It's a good one. I have reworked the malfunctioning reward center of my brain. Now the reward center of my brain does not reward me for doing stupid stuff. Sonny says, I remember watching him eat them hots. Well, I'll tell you something. He's going to be doing some fascinating stuff, eating stuff you may not have ever seen before. Now that we're down here, you should check out Chase the Heat South America. There's some cool stuff coming up on that. So B-Lady, real long answer. Addicts hate themselves for a whole host of reasons. The dependence gets added to that. But most people don't become dependent because they love themselves. Now, there are exceptions to that rule, I promise you. You know, Roy Orbison talked about going on stage, and he wore those sunglasses that became a signature of his because when he went out in the beginning, he kept his eyes closed. He was so terrified of being on stage. Carly Simon is so crippled by that fear. Now, the fear only lasts about the first 2 songs. It's like public speakers. You know, the number one fear of all people on planet Earth is public speaking. Jerry Seinfeld makes a great joke about it. The second biggest fear is death. So more people would rather be in the casket than having to do the eulogy, which I think is a really funny joke. But public speaking is everybody's biggest fear. So most public speakers are just as uncomfortable as you are for the first 3 minutes. And there are people who find that there's a drug that makes that fear go away, that makes the butterflies in the stomach gone. There is a drug that makes them look forward to going out in front of a crowd of people where that normally would have terrified them. My 30th birthday party, it was like a joke birthday party, a lot of public speaking people there, but the woman I was with at the time said to everybody, he doesn't need anything. If you're going to get him a gift, we're all going to get him a t-shirt. We're looking for funny stuff or whatever. And the first box I opened was a t-shirt that said, it was a black t-shirt and in white letters it said, do heroin, like got milk, remember those? It said, do heroin. 5,000 dead rock stars can't be wrong. I thought that was the funniest thing I've ever read. I don't think it's so funny anymore. But I laughed my ass off when I saw it the first time. But I know why those people did heroin. Some of them hated themselves, but some of them wanted to remove the fear. I've said this a million times. Addiction doesn't give you anything. It takes things away. It doesn't give you courage. It takes away fear. It sounds like it's the same thing. Trust me when I tell you it's not. Dope gives you nothing. It just takes away. And sure, taking away fear is a good thing, right? I don't know. I don't know. Fear is like the limp. Overcoming it is fantastic. But if you're not overcoming it, you're not getting anything out of it. If you're crippled by the fear of public speaking and you push through that, you're the burnt leg Lakota, right? You run into the fire. I promise there's going to be spiritual growth off of that. If you do the action, but you don't fear it, I mean, you don't overcome the fear, you're not getting anything out of it. For real. If Johnny Scoville didn't get burned when he ate peppers, how impressed would you be by what he does? Honestly, you're impressed by what he does because you know what a jalapeno does to you. So if you multiply, that's 4,000 Scoville units. Wait a second, he's eating something that's 1 million? Okay, now we can wrap our brain around this, right? Holy hell. God help us to keep eating those, knowing, right? Wow. Well, it's the same thing in life. You know, somebody who's courageous, we always have admiration for somebody that faces their fears and goes forward. A person that doesn't feel fear isn't courageous. They're stupid. If you got a guy that's completely fearless and you hand him an M16 and he runs into the battle, it's not courageous. It's dumb. It's stupid. But a guy that's terrified and knows that people are shooting at him, but there's a guy in there and he's going to go in there and throw him on his shoulder like Forrest Gump and come running out. Those are the people we pin medals to the chest of, right? You get congressional medals of honor for that kind of stuff because it is overcoming the most basic and terrifying fear in the world. This might kill me. This might kill me, but I'm going to do this. God, that's honorable. It really is. And by the way, I will get emails just about daily where someone will say, you know, you're really, they're guru. I call them guru comments, right? There are no gurus, but I will get a comment where someone will say, you know, you really are self-aware or you're really this. Everything came out of that journal. All you need is in that journal. I do love myself today. I do. And there have been times on the lifeboat, the love boat now, where I loved myself. But there have been times that I didn't. And you know what? You can go back and watch it. It's pretty damn obvious where I'm at. It's certainly not, you don't have to go, wonder where Tommy was at. You're an asshat, Johnny Scoville. You know what, Caroline? I'm a good speaker. I am. That's not arrogance. It's confidence and it's a bit of self-awareness. I've spent a lot of time doing this. You know why? I had to. when I was in high school, I had to become enough of, when you haven't loved yourself for 66 years, it's hard to change. Yes, I agree with you. However, it's like, so this is something that I did a show. I've probably done it, I don't know how many times, but I go over the biggest myths about sobriety, right? And one of them is, it is really difficult to get sober. It's not. It isn't. You say, I'm going to quit, and that moment you're sober. Now, living that life is a very difficult thing. But to make the decision where you say, I want to start loving myself, is the first step in that. And most people will never utter that phrase, whether they say it out loud, whether they write it down, they won't. They will never say, I want to love myself. Tell you what, if that's too hard for you, how about going with, I want to stop hating myself? I remember when my mentor said to me, here, the deal in the beginning when I worked with Q was this. He said, I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. If you don't do it, we're not going to work together. That's it. I'll walk away. You do your thing. I'll do my thing, and we're done. Right? But if you really want to do this, then you're going to do what I tell you to do. Because if you don't, this won't work. You can't pick one from column A and say, well, I'm not doing column B. You're doing it all, or you're not going to get out of this what you need to get out of it. And what I needed to get out of it was not dying. I knew I didn't have another prison sentence in me. The feds are giving me life if I ever go back. That's it. There's no debating that. I go back. The judge even said it. I go back in there, I'm getting life. The guy that's mentoring me has 2 life sentences. It's a little disrespectful to treat the ability to be free disrespectfully around him. So I said, I will do whatever you tell me to do. I fought journaling harder than I fought anything else. I've told the story. He said, you journaling? I said, yeah, absolutely. He goes, let me see it. I go, come on, man. You know, no one's going to read my inner thoughts. You wouldn't even want to. He said, I don't want to. I just want to see the pages. And being the liar that I was, I'm walking down to my cell going, there's got to be some shit in there I've written on, right? There's got to be something in there that I can open up. Maybe I can show letters that I was writing that I haven't mailed yet or whatever. I got all the way to my door and turned around and went, I haven't been journaling. He went, I know. But I'll tell you, one of the things, Lisa Trimble, that he got me to do, he said, you're going to do daily affirmations. And in the beginning, he said, you just need to do this for 1 minute a day. And he pushed that. But he was smart enough to know that if he said, you're going to do 5 minutes of these a day, I would have gone, get out of my life. Because to me, a daily affirmation was Stuart Smalley. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Sitting this way in front of a mirror, I'm Stuart Smalley. Right? I am a member of several self-help groups and 13-step programs. To me, it was a Saturday Night Live skit. And I said, I wouldn't even know what the hell to say in a daily affirmation, man. This is stupid. And he said, no, what you're going to do is what I write down. Because you're right. You don't know what to do in a daily affirmation, but I'm going to help you out with it. And the first thing that he wrote down was, I'm not a loser. I'm not a scumbag. Right? Those 2 were huge. Because I guess constantly talking to him, I'd say, well, you know, I'm a loser. I'm reinforcing that every day, right? I'm a scumbag. When I would say F my life, right? My favorite expression for so long in my life was F my life. I lost a bad poker hand. I'd say F my life. You're programming your brain whether you realize it or not. And my attitude was F my life. I mean, what is there anything more reprehensible? I remember him saying, and he was not a guy there was nothing violent about him. But we were in the library once and I was writing something. And I went, man, my life. It was a pen thing, right? Really worth getting angry about. The pen had run out of ink. So I said, F my life. And he said, Rock, I love you, man. I'm going to punch you in the face the next time you say that. I'm chin checking you the next time you say that sentence out loud in front of me. He said, I swear to God, we'll both go to the shoe. I'm punching you in the face the next time you say that. He's like, I've asked you not to do it, right? I've hammered this home. If you say it again, you're getting chin checked. And I said to him, you know, it's a bit of a habit at this point. He said, it absolutely is. So you can get to the F my. I promise before you say life, you're going to realize that we had a deal on this. And I did. I would go, F my, and I'd look at him and go, I'm sorry. And for about 1.5 years, I just said, F my, before I would realize. And I don't say it much these days. I was saying it a few months ago. I started to say it again. Words mean things and they have effects. So sitting in front of a mirror and looking at myself in the eyes and saying, you're not a loser. And I went over time. It got to a point literally where I would look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you. I love you. How are you going to say it to somebody else? You don't know what it is. If you don't love yourself, I promise loving someone else isn't going to work. Years ago, 16-year-old son was upset his girl argued when he called her beautiful. I told him to start smaller. You're pretty. Your eyes are beautiful. Today, it worked. You know what? Of course it did. It makes so much sense. How do you eat an elephant? The same way you eat a chicken, right? One bite at a time. And amazingly, you look at an elephant, you go, oh my God. But if you wrote in your journal, today, I'm going to eat the baby toe of that elephant. It's going to take 3 meals. You set a goal. The goals look so big. Right? I mean, I have, there was somebody on the boat, it's a close friend, whose goal was to lose 250 pounds. That's a big man. That's a man bigger than me. And this person wanted to lose that much weight. And I said, man, oh man, that's a bit more than you're going to be able to bite off. Doesn't mean you can't do it. I believe you can. But let's, for the next 7 days, live your life exactly how you've lived it up to this point, how you got to the weight you're at. Don't change a thing. But every time you eat, write down the time of day you ate, write down what you eat, and write down what you're thinking. What's your emotional state? What's going on in your dome while you're eating? Because at the end of that week, we can go, all right, you eat 4 meals a day, legitimate ass meals that you sit and, you make a meal. You eat 4 of them a day and you snack about every 45 minutes. You think that's an accident? It's giving you something and then it's crashing and you got to eat again in 45 minutes. So the goal was, right, we're going to knock out 2 of those 45-minute snack sessions a day. The amazing thing was he knocked out those snack sessions in the first week, all of them. He had never, ever, while getting ready to eat, thought about what's going on in my head. And for him to turn the logical center of his brain on and write in the journal what he's thinking at the time he's crushing a full bag of Doritos enabled him to realize that he's not eating because he's hungry. There's no hunger there. He's eating because it's delivering something. It's taking away, just like the needle or anything else, it's taking away that feeling that he was feeling. And it is absolutely engineered that way. Hello, Australia. Good to see you, Scribbleshanks. I probably said that wrong because it was already by me and I was trying to go in memory. But biting off small chunks is huge. It really is. And my mentor was a master at walking me through things, getting this much of it in there. And I thought, oh, great. And then he would add more to it. And then he would add more to it. Like, I want you to write down all of your goals, right? When you're journaling, I want you to write your goals down. So I would write down my goals. Then a week later, he'd go, oh, you know what? Write down why you want whatever that goal was. And he would do it like, oh, I forgot. He didn't forget, but he wanted me to write down the stupid goals. So then I had to go back and write down why I wanted them. I use the Ferrari as an example because it's just so damn good, right? You need transportation. You don't need a $480,000, piece of transportation. Now, if I had a job or I had a lifestyle, what do you do for a living? My job is to get livers from here to the hospital for transport. There's a great story that you can read where they actually used, like Ferrari, the company, used their cars in Italy to get a organ transplant from one place to another. They drove the organ in Ferraris. That's legit as hell. If your reason for why you want a Ferrari is my job is to move 500 miles a day and I need to be able to do it at lightning speed, a Toyota is not going to deliver that. That's a damn good reason to want a Ferrari. But if you write, I want a Ferrari, and you have to say what the reason is, well, it's not a better car. I'm sorry, it's not. After 5,000 miles, you're going to need a $30,000 tune-up. So that's obviously not a better car. It's a flashier car. It's a more expensive car. It's a status symbol, right, with wheels. But you write down, I want a Ferrari, and you honestly write down why you want it. And you're going to do stuff like, well, I want my girlfriend in high school to be miserable when she sees me in this. I want the girl that broke up with me in college to know that when she said you're going to be a failure your entire life, that she's wrong. A Ferrari doesn't make you a success, but oh hell, when you see somebody in it, you don't think that person's poor. That person has not been successful in what they want to do for work. The alpha male fakes that are on YouTube are really putting a dent in exotic automobiles, because it just really shows just how much of a jackwagon you got to be to go out and lease one of these cars so that people will think you're cooler than you are. Honestly, he's not doing any of these guys. They're not doing a whole lot to help out Ferrari and those companies with sales. I promise they're not. I find it fascinating. Truthfully, I do. But writing down why you want what you want, he knew that if he gave it to me in little chunks, that it would have a much greater effect on me. So I went back and I wrote down why I wanted the things that I wanted. And then I started scribbling a lot of those goals off. I don't want this. I don't want this. This doesn't make sense. Why do I want this? And then after I had all of those things, he said, now go back and write down what you're willing to do to get it. And don't write anything. You want to lose 250 pounds? What are you willing to do to get it? You can write down anything. Anything? Well, deliver me some anything. I want it on my doorstep tomorrow morning. Right? Bring that everything over in a bag. Can you do that for me? No. But when you add logic to it, like, are you willing to write down in a journal every single thing you eat for the next 7 days, when you ate it, how much you ate, and what you're feeling in your head at that time? Are you willing to do that? If the person says yes, we're off to the races. Now we're taking a positive action to move toward a goal. Are you willing to do that? Yes. Are you willing to journal every day? If you have spent 66 years not loving yourself, what are you willing to do to begin to love yourself? Because if the goal is, I want to love myself, write down why you want to love yourself. Should be really obvious, right? Why would anybody need to write that down? Well, here's a good one. You can write this below it. No one's ever going to love you more than you love yourself. They're not. He was right. He nailed it. They might try to, but no one's ever going to love you more than you love yourself. So you better set that bar high if you want your significant other or your new girlfriend or your new boyfriend or the one you haven't met yet to love you more, and deliver that, because we need it. I promise you we do. But if you want that delivered, well, then you better set the bar. You better love yourself. This sure is feeling and sounding like the old boat I fell in love with. Me too. I really needed this feeling of comfort lately. Paula D. Penley, I'm glad that you said that. It does feel a lot more like the old boat, doesn't it? I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and say this is a better version. For real. The Love Boat is a better version than the Lifeboat was. And the reason is pretty obvious. It may not jump off the page, but as human beings, every time we become asshats and then fix it, we're always a better version of that than we were before we started. I promise. Trust me on this one. I have more experience than you do. I've screwed up more than anybody on planet Earth. I'm an authority on this particular subject. Every time you go from being an idiot to being back, then you're going to be a better version. You're never going to come back not better. I promise. Especially if you're doing it the right way. I don't mean like these alpha lames that I've been doing stories on, where you get out of prison and you get yourself a Ferrari and you get a $95,000 a month. Literally, the guy's claiming he's spending $95,000 a month to rent his house, which is so damn funny. It's hard to wrap your brain around, especially because I looked up the house that he lives in and you can rent it for $18,000 a month. I mean, remember the critical thinking stuff? Critical thinking is huge. Somebody said last night, you really got to go over and check out Jesse on Fire. I'm not bagging on creators. I don't do that. But when I went and turned him on, the first thing he said was, Republicans are voting against bringing the Epstein stuff to the floor for a vote. No, they didn't. I'm sorry. And I'm not siding on a political party. I promise you I'm not. But critical thinking says, why would they vote against that? They've been screaming for 4 years, even if they want to bury it. They can't want the world to know they're burying it. Why are they voting against this? Well, let's get a look at the bill. And then you look up at the bill and find out it's about cryptocurrency. It's about the government, right? And giving more freedom for cryptocurrency so that the government can't spy on you for your cryptocurrency stuff. That's it. That's what that bill was about. And then procedurally, they put a little earmark on the bottom that brought up, as part of this bill, if we pass that, we're also saying that we're going to bring this to the floor for a vote. Critical thinking, right? Don't take everything at face value. I promise that's a mistake in life. I promise it is. And this is why I don't or won't date anyone. My constant thought is, if they really know me in my past, why would anyone want to love me? And age has taken looks that I used to wield. You know what? I don't buy it. I'm sorry. You look at yourself in the mirror and you are the harshest critic on planet Earth. I know this. I have dated people that I found more beautiful than you could put into words, and then heard them say, I'm fat, I'm ugly. Society has decided what we think beauty is, and it's bullshit. Pardon me. It is. It's augmented. It's digitally fixed. I saw one of the most beautiful interviews I've ever seen in my life, and it was a couple, and the guy was They had to be in their late 80s. And they pulled up a picture of them when they were really young, and it showed the woman, and the guy said, man, I don't know how I fell in love with you looking like you did then. And the woman said, what? He goes, look at you. There's not a mark on your face. You couldn't tell that you ever even smiled. There's no smile marks. He said, there's no sign that you've overcome anything. He looked at the wrinkles on his wife's face, and he saw beauty in those wrinkles. Don't let the world tell you what beauty is, Zero Fox Given. Please, don't. And I'm going to tell you something. There's somebody out there, and you might not know who they are. You may not have met them. Or they may look at you on a regular basis, and they think that the sun sets on your ass. I promise. I promise. If there's one thing that I have learned more than anything else while doing this channel is society has told women things about themselves that are heinous. I feel blessed as hell to be a man. And I know that there's an attack on men, but it is completely different. It is completely different. The crazy thing is, what is beauty for women? The guys that are designing the clothing and putting the women on the runway are gay. I'm not being funny, right? Almost all of the great designers aren't heterosexual. I find that fascinating. But when I have been to runway shows, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any body type, but I look at those women and go, good Lord, eat something, right? That doesn't look healthy to me. Ecuador is phenomenal for one reason. If Johnny Scoville can hear this, you're going to hear him chime in. But one of the most unbelievable things about this country is you will not see a self-conscious woman. For real. I have seen women on the beach that must weigh 250, right? Or more, in thongs. And they're walking around like they're 17 years old, right? And they're perfect without a blemish. And these people are in their 60s. And by American BS beauty standards, you'd go, that's not what, and you find yourself looking at them and going, my God, that woman's beautiful. My God, that woman is beautiful. Because beauty isn't what people, especially women. And here's the thing. This is not a shocker. Do you know why that is? Think about it. Today, when you leave your house and go do anything, on the way to 7-Eleven, on the way to go shopping, on the way to go see your daughter or son, count how many images of women who border on anorexic that you see on the way there. It's going to be on the bus. It's going to be on billboards. It's going to be on magazines. It's going to pop up on your phone when you're trying to look up automobiles for sale. They shove airbrushed and painted women down your throat. I did a show on this, and I can't remember the stat anymore off the top of my head, but how many images of women in ads that the average girl sees by the time she's 12? It shouldn't be a shocker that body dysmorphia is on the rise, because little girls compare themselves to women that aren't real. They have fake boobs, their butts are augmented, right? And even after all of that, they're still going to digitally enhance the photo. What we do to little girls is heinous. We give them a Barbie doll, right? And Barbie's inseam, if you made Barbie a real woman, her inseam is more than 72 inches. I'm sorry, not her inseam, the inseam. Her legs from floor to crotch, 72 inches. That's my height, give or take. Her bust size, right? She would have a 54 or 55-inch chest. What the hell? Why? And then we wonder why women struggle with body issues their entire life. I got news for you. I'm a man who spent a crap load of time locked up with no women around, right? I did time in federal prisons. And the magazines that guys got were like FMX. There was a lot of magazines you probably have never heard of, Curves. And the women in these magazines don't look like you think that you hear guys talk. And they're not nice. These are convicts. The way they talk. And guys, honestly, guys would go, man, eat a cheeseburger. One of the counselors or whatever would walk by, and it would be a woman that's underweight, and they'd be like, eat something. I promise you. I love it when my ex used to say to me all the time, well, guys like, I'd say, don't ever say that again. You don't have a clue what guys like. Trust me, you got the wrong equipment. You don't know what guys like. Stop saying it. A little faith in ourselves. It's a hard thing to do. The journal can deliver. Learning to love yourself literally is the ultimate gift. If someone falls in love with your appearance, you don't want them. Trust me. There will be someone who loves your soul, and that is what true love is. And I want to tell you something else. When you love someone's soul, everything about them. Exactly. The scar on her chin, you wouldn't replace. You wouldn't. If she had, she fell down on the balance beam as a gymnast when she was 7 and she's got a scar on her forehead, you wouldn't take that off if you could do it by snapping your fingers. When you love somebody, you love every single bit of them. You don't love them in spite of, you love them because of. Trust me. Again, this is something I know something about. It really is. And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than being with somebody that you find more beautiful than anyone you've ever seen and hear them cut themselves down nonstop. And you know it's not them. Society did this to you guys. Then we give them social media that gives them the snarky attitudes and personality, making them ugly from the inside. I'm going to tell you something, Paula D. Penley, you just hit it out of the park, right? You went yard on this one. The saddest thing in the world is just how ugly so many attractive people are. There's a difference between attractive and beauty. Attractive is they draw a line down the center of your face and they check for how much you look on the right side like the left side. Symmetry, the distance between your nose and your upper lip, all of these things, like they can scientifically determine what people find attractive, right? You absolutely can do that from a scientific standpoint. Beautiful is a choice. For real. I spent a little bit of time with a girl who was in the magazine Playboy. Oddly enough, so did Johnny Scoville. The girl that I dated was a Miss March. Like she was on the front cover of a Playboy magazine. She was the ugliest human being I ever met in my life. I'm not kidding you. The ugliest human being I've ever met in my life. She was symmetrical to beat hell. I promise you that. And the doctor that, Dr. Feintush, the dude that put her together, did a hell of a job. She was attractive, but she was the ugliest human being I ever met. And I've told stories about her on here before. She used to eat Kleenex. The first time I saw it, I thought, this is the drug. I got bad dope this morning. She starts eating. I said, what are you doing? She said, it fills your stomach. It has 0 calories. You know what? Says, I'm not a Pamela Anderson. You know something? I think Pamela looks great today. I'm not joking. I think she looks fantastic today. I'm proud of her. And I never liked her. I was a real serious. I beat on Pamela Anderson like you have no idea. I just thought she was horrific. But I think she looks beautiful today because she did the I don't care anymore. And she's starting to look like a real woman. And I think she looks gorgeous. I really do. God bless her. I was a barmaid at a place with topless dancers. Most of the girls were gay. Thought it was hysterical how these guys acted around them. Interviewed dancers, and now they are characters in my novel. One of our very, very close friends, he's no longer with us, but Johnny and I knew a guy when we lived in Houston, and he owned a cabaret, a topless club. And probably one of the most successful one in history. And I got to know a lot of the girls because at the time I was selling most of them chemicals. And yeah, they came in a couple of varieties. And without fail, all of them struggled with issues in their life. It was rare that I met one that was happy. She does look great today, doesn't she? You know what else was cool was the girl from True Lies. What's her name, Johnny Scoville? From 48 Hours? Trading Places? Jamie Lee Curtis. Thank you. Jamie Lee Curtis did a spread in a magazine. And then when you turn the page, it was the exact same picture without them touching it up. And she came out and said, I'm never, ever going to allow them to digitally enhance a photograph of me. Aging isn't a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. Do you want to hear something insane? You can look this up and see if I'm lying. What do you think the happiest age is for people in your life? When would be the happiest age in your life? That's what I would have guessed. 16, right? Somewhere, 60, 70. Yeah. The happiest and they 30,000 people or whatever, and they talk to these people. When you're a teenager, life sucks. Your body, you got hormones raging in there, and you think, I'm going to be older soon, and this is going to be great. And then you get into your 20s, and it isn't great. And you go through all of this stuff. We used to eat cotton wool in professional ballet. If any of the students did that, they'd be getting a serious talking to from me. It's so sad, and sure as hell wouldn't let it continue. Think about it as a concept. I'm going to fill my stomach with something that gives you absolutely no nutritional value, but at least I won't be hungry. Yeah, 70 to 80 is when people say they are at their happiest. Do you know why? Because the BS is over. By then, we usually, hated myself in my teen years, says Lee. I think most people did. Cindy says they laugh at everything. You're right. And you know what? Don't unsubscribe until you let me finish the sentence. The thing that comes to me with age is prejudice. And I don't mean against people, right? But we can prejudge situations. Hey, like, you want to go do this rave thing? No, I'm good, bro. No, I'm good. I can prejudge that. I know exactly what that's going to be without going to it. I promise. I know what that's going to be. Like Burning Man. You want to go to Burning Man? No, I'm good. I'm good. Why? Because I went to the first one. I can now judge every one of those festivals that are going to be like that based on that. Not, I don't need that. I've been there. I've done that. And you know what? I didn't buy the t-shirt. Some people, that's it. And I'm not busting on them. If that's your get down, fantastic. It's not mine. But as you get older, you figure out what isn't your get down. 30s was my best years, bar none, even with prison. Guess what? Your best years haven't come yet. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. 25 years ago this weekend, I was actually one of those girls of indie here in Toronto. That's how much life has changed. I have also been to prison, etc. So there is a lot that builds over time. Spent a little time in those institutions myself. I've also taken my clothing off for money. These are, there's a couple of things that we share there. And I'm happier today than I've ever been in my life. I assure you, my body is not in the condition that it was in back then. And my mind isn't either. Honestly, I'm not as sharp as I was. I've got, hey, congratulations, Rocket Queen. 50 years this year, 1975. I love it. I'm happier in my 50s than I've ever been. And I'm happier at 55 than I was at 54. And I'm looking forward to 60. I'm not kidding. Am I ever going to be, the dude that, no, I'm never going to be that dude again. And there's something great about that. Oh, Anna Nicole Smith. Of all of the people that have ever been in Playboy, I'm sorry, Anna Nicole Smith was in my opinion, was the most beautiful, especially when she was at her heaviest. I'm sorry. I agree with you. I agree with you. She was never, ever better looking than when she was at her heaviest. How did I become so proficient at public speaking? Because it was a compensation. It was my limp. If I was going to get through school without being outed as being stupid, this was something I could do. I knew I could do that. Lindy says 67 rocks. I love it. I could do this. So I built what I could do so that I could hide what I couldn't do. My ability to write it would shock you. I promise it would. It would shock you. Did someone just call for Anna Nicole? Boy, your timing is perfect. I think some of it is my dad never talked to me like I was a baby, and I didn't talk to Spanx like he was a baby. My dad didn't do the goo-goo and the gaga thing. He talked to me like I was 50 from the time I was 2. And I don't mean harsh. He was always loving, but he answered questions. And, if I asked my dad a question, he didn't go, I'm busy. He would sit down and have conversations. And if something came on the TV and I'd go, what is that? My father would go into a history lesson. Like, he talked to us. It was a great deal of where we are today is because my dad was a very gifted speaker, great storyteller, good sense of humor. Exactly. A poor imitation of the original. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of this fun. Yes. Well, no, you have some Anna Nicole Smith qualities other than the fact that you like to marry people 4 times your age. That's not the only thing. All right, people, I'm going to be back tonight, and tonight's is going to be one you don't want to miss. I promise you. There's some very, very interesting stuff that we're going to be talking about. Do yourself a favor, man. Crack that journal open and start writing in it every day. Because I promise you, if you're going to get to who you are, it's going to be in the pages of that. There aren't any gurus, but the closest I've ever come to one is the journal. I mean it. The closest you're ever going to come to one is going to be that journal. It's going to deliver to you things that nothing else can. And I have more fun doing these shows with 50 people in them than I ever had having 2,500 in a chat talking about something that doesn't mean anything. And stop letting the world tell you what beautiful is. Seriously, if you think your best days are behind you because of beauty, keep coming back. Keep coming back here. Keep journaling more, because I promise you that the most beautiful days of your life are coming. Thank you guys. Once upon a time, I was working on a series of short stories called My Life Behind Bars, visiting both beautiful old man pubs at midnight, interviewed locals, learned history of the bar. That sounds like a project that would have been fantastic. Oh, you know what? I love it when people say stuff like this. And thank you guys for making everything that I do in the morning better. You're so involved in these chats. It's not like anything else. I said to Johnny before I went live, this is going to be a short one. It's never a short one in the morning because you guys are so engaged and involved. It's absolute magic. Now go journal, right? Don't miss it because I promise you you'll regret it. Between now and the next time I see you, which is going to be tonight. Yes, I'm on tomorrow. I do it 7 days a week. Between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart, all right? Reese, thanks for stopping by. Always great to see you. We'll see all of you later. God bless. Bye-bye.